You are not who you think you are. You are not the name on your passport. You are not the face in the mirror. You are not even the voice inside your head. You are something deeper, something more ancient, something that has been drowned, suffocated, and buried beneath layers of noise. And tonight, we dig it out. Every second of your life, you are dying. Not tomorrow, not one day in the distant future, right now. With every breath, with every blink, with every beat of your fragile heart, death whispers closer. The question is not if. The question is, how will you meet it? Will you meet it as a slave, chained by distraction, crippled by fear, paralyzed by endless desires? Or will you meet it as a master, unshaken, unbroken, unafraid? This is not a video. This is not entertainment. This is a weapon. And if you dare, it will cut through the illusions you live in. Look around you. Do you see the chaos? The endless notifications, the hollow scrolls, the lies that drip from every glowing screen? Do you feel the exhaustion in your bones? The fatigue of chasing what never ends? The modern world has given you everything. Comfort, technology, pleasure at the tap of a finger, and yet you are empty. You wake up tired. You go to sleep restless. You are surrounded by millions, but you feel more alone than ever. Do you know why? Because you have forgotten the most ancient truth. You were never meant to live as a slave. 2,000 years ago, men stood on marble steps beneath the burning Roman sun. They were emperors, generals, slaves, exiles, and yet they spoke with one voice, a voice that cut across time and space, a voice that still whispers to you now. Control your mind, and you will control your world. That was their creed, that was their sword, that was Stoicism. But do not mistake this for philosophy and dusty books. Number, this is blood, this is fire, this is survival training for the soul. Marcus Aurelius did not write his meditations for applause. He wrote them as battle notes while the empire crumbled around him. Epictetus did not preach to scholars in robes. He spoke to slaves, to the broken, to the ones who had nothing but their will. Seneca did not send letters for poetry. He wrote to men drowning in power, wealth, and temptation, reminding them that without discipline, they were already dead. And you? You are not so different. You think your struggle is new? That your stress, your anxiety, your confusion is unique to this century? It is not. It is the same storm, only dressed in different clothes. The Romans faced swords and exile. You face screens and bills, but the battle is the same, and the weapon is the same. So listen, not with your ears, with your soul. Because what you're about to hear is not casual advice. It is a challenge, it is a prophecy, it is a line drawn in the sand between who you are and who you must become. The origins of personal development did not start with self-help books. It did not start with motivational speeches. It did not start with morning routines, productivity hacks, or life coaches. It started with warriors of the mind, men who stared death in the face, men who lost everything but never lost themselves, men who chose mastery over slavery, discipline over desire, clarity over chaos. They carved their wisdom into stone, into scrolls, into silence. And 2,000 years later, their voices echo louder than the noise of this world. Pause. Feel this moment, because after this, you cannot go back. Once you hear their truth, you cannot unhear it. Once you see the chains around your neck, you cannot pretend they do not exist. And once you realize you are dying every second, you cannot waste another one. So I ask you now, will you listen as a spectator, or will you step into the fire? Will you nod at these words like entertainment, or will you let them brand your soul? Will you pass through this video unchanged, or will you emerge forged, sharpened, unstoppable? The choice is yours. But remember this: time waits for no one. The clock is not ticking toward success. It is ticking toward your grave. And only one thing decides whether you walk into it as a prisoner or as a king. The tragedy of this age is not war, it is not famine, it is not the collapse of empires or the fall of nations. The tragedy of this age is the slow death of the human soul. Look around you. Everywhere you turn, you see the faces of the walking dead. People scrolling endlessly, chasing shadows, bowing to gods that do not exist. Status, likes, trends, applause. They are breathing, yes, but they are not alive. You wake up, and before your feet even touch the ground, your hand reaches for your phone. The glow of the screen blinds your eyes, floods your brain, hijacks your thoughts. Before you even rise, the world has already conquered you. Hundreds of messages, thousands of posts, millions of distractions, all fighting, not for your time, not for your attention, but for your very soul. And every day you surrender. You scroll through strangers' lives, comparing your chaos to their curated perfection. You wonder why you are not enough, why your body is not perfect, why your bank account is not overflowing, why your love is not celebrated. And in this endless comparison, you bleed quietly, silently, until the wounds of envy become so deep that you no longer notice the pain. You only notice the emptiness. The Stoics warned of this. 2,000 years ago, Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." But look at us. We waste not just hours, not just days. We waste entire lives in chains of distraction, chains of fear, chains of endless wanting. You chase money, but when you hold it in your hand, it feels like dust. You chase pleasure, but the moment you taste it, it turns bitter. You chase love, desperate for someone to fill your emptiness, but you only find more loneliness. Like a man dying of thirst who drinks seawater, the more you consume, the emptier you become. Do you feel it? That quiet ache inside your chest? That anxiety that gnaws at you even in silence? That storm of thoughts that never stops raging in your head? That is the disease of this age. Not poverty, not hunger, but the endless noise of a mind that has forgotten how to be still. Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled the greatest empire on earth, once wrote in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But you have given away that power. Your mind belongs not to you, but to the voices on screens, to the opinions of strangers, to the manipulation of corporations that profit from your weakness. They sell you escape in bottles, in pills, in endless entertainment, and you drink it gladly because reality has become too unbearable. But ask yourself, how long will you run? How long will you let fear drive you? How long will you remain a slave in a world that pretends to call you free? Do you know what real slavery looks like? It is not chains of iron. It is not whips on your back. It is this: to have a body, but no control over it. To have a mind, but no discipline within it. To live every day in reaction, never action. To beg for validation from those who do not even know your name. This is slavery, and this is where most of humanity now lives. Seneca once said, "It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable." But unconquerable minds are rare today. Instead, you see broken spirits, men afraid of silence, women afraid of solitude, Children raised not by wisdom, but by algorithms. Everyone desperate to be seen. Everyone desperate to be loved. Everyone desperate to be heard. And yet, no one truly alive. Pause for a moment. Ask yourself this. When was the last time you sat in silence, without music, without screens, without noise, just you and your breath? If the thought terrifies you, it is because you no longer know yourself. And when you do not know yourself, the world will shape you into what it wants. A consumer, a puppet, a ghost. This is the struggle. This is the battlefield of the modern soul. It is not fought with swords. It is fought with attention. It is fought with focus. It is fought with the will to say no when the world screams yes. But here is the truth most will never admit. You cannot escape this war. You are already in it. Every day, every choice, every second. The only question is, will you fight or will you surrender? Because, make no mistake, the system does not want you free. It does not want you disciplined. It does not want you stoic. It wants you weak. It wants you tired. It wants you addicted. Because a weak man can be controlled, but a strong man, a man who masters his mind, terrifies them. The world tells you, chase pleasure, chase comfort, chase ease. The Stoics whisper, chase virtue, chase discipline, chase mastery. One path leads to slavery, the other to freedom. And as you sit here listening, your soul already knows the truth. You were not built for weakness. You were not born for distraction. You were not created to waste your life staring at glowing rectangles while your dreams rot inside you. You were built for greatness, not the kind that trends, not the kind that fades, not the kind that is bought with money, but the greatness of a soul unshaken by chaos, unbroken by pain, untempted by pleasure. That is the greatness you have forgotten. That is the struggle you must now face. In every age, in every empire, there have been warriors. Some carried swords, some carried shields, but the deadliest of them all carried something far greater, a mind that could not be conquered. This was the Stoic weapon. Think of Marcus Aurelius. He was not just an emperor. He was a man born into storms. Plagues ravaged Rome. Wars tore across its borders. Betrayal slithered inside his palace walls, and every night the weight of an empire pressed down on his chest. Any lesser man would have broken, but not Marcus. He wrote quietly to himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Do you hear it? That is not advice. That is not poetry. That is a battle cry, a shield against madness, a sword against despair." Now look at Seneca, a man born into wealth, pulled into politics, accused, exiled, dragged back, forced to serve a tyrant. Nero, the most dangerous man in Rome. At any moment, Nero could end his life, and eventually he did. But Seneca was never a slave, because even when he was ordered to die, he faced death with calm. He reminded the world, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Imagine that scene, the emperor's men at his door, the cold blade of death at his throat, and Seneca, still teaching, still calm, still unbroken. That is the Stoic weapon. And then there was Epictetus, a slave, born with nothing, owned by another man. His master broke his leg. He walked with pain for the rest of his life. But the body could be chained, the soul never. Epictetus declared, "You may fetter my leg, but my will, not even Zeus himself can overpower." Think about that. A slave saying he was freer than kings, because freedom is not in chains. It is in the mastery of the mind. These men lived thousands of years ago, but their war is your war. You think you're free because you live in the 21st century. You think you're free because no one owns your body. But do they own your attention? Do they own your emotions? Do they own your reactions? If so, then you too are a slave. Picture this. A young man sits alone at night, scrolling endlessly, lost in the maze of comparison. He sees friends who seem happier, richer, stronger. His chest tightens, his breath shortens, his soul collapses. In that moment, Marcus Aurelius whispers across centuries, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." The young man looks up from his screen. He realizes he is bleeding, not because the world is cruel, but because his thoughts are undisciplined. The weapon is not outside, it is within. Another scene. A woman stands after heartbreak. The love she trusted shattered her. Her chest feels like an open wound. She screams, she begs, she weeps. She believes her life is over. But then Seneca's words cut through the storm. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. She breathes. She realizes the pain is real, but the endless replay in her mind, the chains of what if and why me, that is the prison she built herself. And in this realization, she begins to heal, not by forgetting, but by mastering her thoughts. Another scene still. A man loses everything, his job, his reputation, his pride. He feels crushed beneath the weight of failure. But then Epictetus whispers, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The man realizes the world can strip him of titles, of money, of approval, but as long as he commands his response, as long as he holds his mind steady, he is undefeated. Do you see the pattern? In every story, ancient or modern, the battle is never outside. It is inside. The wars of Stoicism are not against enemies you can see. They are against the shadows inside your own chest. Fear, anger, desire, weakness. And the weapon is philosophy lived, not philosophy memorized. The Stoics trained for this. They practiced death, not to be morbid, but to be free. They practiced hardship, not to suffer, but to become unshaken. They practiced silence, not to be passive, but to sharpen their control. Seneca advised, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?' Why? Because a man who has rehearsed poverty cannot be enslaved by wealth. A man who has faced discomfort cannot be broken by hardship." This is what modern people cannot understand. They think philosophy is soft. They think Stoicism is reading quotes on Instagram. But in truth, Stoicism is war. War against the self, war against weakness, war against every desire that seeks to chain you. And here is the part that terrifies the world. A man armed with Stoic discipline is untouchable. Take away his money, he will adapt. Take away his reputation, he will remain. Take away his freedom, he will still stand free in his mind. How do you conquer a man who no longer fears loss? How do you break a soul that has already accepted death? You cannot. That is the weapon. That is why emperors wrote in silence. That is why slaves spoke with more authority than kings. That is why Stoicism, though old, still burns brighter than any modern self-help. Because self-help tells you how to feel better. Stoicism tells you how to become unbreakable. And so the question falls to you. Where is your weapon? Where is your training? Do you hold the blade of your mind steady, sharp, ready for war? Or are you unarmed, walking into battle naked, begging for mercy from a world that will never grant it? You cannot borrow Marcus's discipline. You cannot rent Seneca's courage. You cannot buy Epictetus's strength. You must forge your own. And that begins here, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, now. Because the war is already raging. The only question left, will you enter armed or unarmed? The ancients never gave us their philosophy as theory alone. It was not an intellectual exercise to be debated in dimly lit halls. It was a weapon, a toolkit, a shield. It was battle-tested in courts, in prisons, in exile, in war. And what they left us was not fragile parchment, but a battle plan. If you want to focus on yourself, if you want to see what happens when you truly place your attention inward, then here, step by step, is what the Stoics would command you to do. Step 1. Master your mornings. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, ruler of millions, began each day reminding himself of the obstacles that would surely arrive. He wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." Why? Because he wanted his mind armored before his feet touched the floor. Imagine if you did the same. Instead of scrolling, instead of drowning in noise, you declared to yourself, "Today, I will be tested. Today, I will be tempted. Today, the world will try to steal my focus. But I will remain steady." This is not pessimism. It is preparation. It is sharpening your sword before the battle begins. Step 2. Claim the fortress of your mind. Epictetus, once a slave, once beaten so badly his leg was shattered forever, still declared with thunderous certainty, "You may fetter my body, but not even Zeus himself can overpower my mind." Think about that. A man stripped of freedom, of property, of dignity, refused to surrender the only true possession he ever had, his focus. This is the fortress you must defend. The walls are built of discipline. The gates are guarded by self-control. Every distraction, every trivial opinion, every shallow criticism, these are arrows fired at your walls. You can either let them shatter against your defenses, or you can let them in. And once you let them in, the fortress burns. So you must build habits of stillness. You must take time daily to sit in silence, to close the doors to chaos and ask, what is within my control and what is not? That single question is dynamite. It destroys illusions. It clears away fog. It reveals where your energy belongs. Step 3. Live with a sword of simplicity. Seneca warned us of drowning in excess. He wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." When you focus on yourself, you will see that much of your suffering comes not from scarcity, but from endless desire. You chase applause, you chase wealth, you chase comparisons. But the more you chase, the more enslaved you become. The Stoic battle plan teaches subtraction, not addition. You cut away what is not essential. You strip down to the armor you actually need. Simplicity is strength. Ask yourself, what if I stop chasing? What if I sharpen my soul instead of my image? What if I could walk through this world needing less and therefore fearing less? You would become untouchable, because no one can threaten a man who has nothing to lose. Step 4. Transform pain into power. The world will wound you. You will lose. You will suffer. You will cry. The Stoics never denied this. They stared it in the face and said, "Good. Marcus lost children. Epictetus lost freedom. Seneca lost friends to exile and blade, but they did not break. They alchemized their pain into wisdom. When something hurts you, the average man curses fate. But the Stoic whispers, this too is fuel. This too is training. Think of the blacksmith hammering iron. Each strike makes it stronger. Your soul is the same. Every betrayal, every disappointment, every rejection is a hammer strike. The question is not whether life will hit you. It will. The question is, will you be forged or will you be shattered? Step 5. Anchor yourself in duty, not distraction. Modern life tells you to pursue happiness. The Stoics tell you to pursue virtue. And there is a colossal difference. Happiness is fickle. It is an emotion that flickers and dies. Virtue is solid. It is a foundation no storm can wash away. When you focus on yourself in the Stoic sense, you're not asking, how can I feel good today? You're asking, what is the right thing? What is within my power? What is my duty? If your duty is to speak truth, you speak it. Even if your voice shakes, if your duty is to endure hardship, you endure it. Even if your knees tremble, if your duty is to hold fast against the tide of distraction, then you hold, no matter how loud the waves. This is how you become formidable. This is how focusing on yourself transforms you from fragile to unbreakable. Step 6. Reflect nightly, die daily. Every evening, the Stoics would audit themselves. Seneca wrote, when the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, aware of this habit which is now mine, I examine my entire day. They treated each day like a lifetime. A sunrise was a birth, a sunset was a death. And in that nightly death they asked, did I live well today? Did I govern my mind? Did I waste what was never mine to waste? Time? Do this, and you will live thousands of lives in one. You will sharpen your awareness. You will treat each dawn as a gift, and you will stop letting the hours slip into nothingness. This is the battle plan. Simple steps, eternal principles. Arm your mornings, guard your mind, strip away excess, transmute pain, live by duty, audit your days. And if you do this consistently, relentlessly, without apology, the world will change. Not because the world itself has changed, but because you have. Because when you focus on yourself, when you harness the wisdom of Stoicism, not as words, but as weapons, you will see the greatest truth of all. The world bends not to the man who grasps for it, but to the man who commands himself first. The Stoics, for all their calmness, did not sugarcoat life. They did not wrap the world in pretty words to make us feel better. They handed us the truth, raw, unfiltered, soul-crushing. And the truth is this: you will die. Everything you love will vanish. Every breath you take moves you closer to the grave. And if that terrifies you, it should. But the Stoics wanted you to hold that terror, to feel it, to sit with it, not as despair, but as clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, almost like a whisper to himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, what you say, what you think. Pause. Read that again slowly. You could leave life right now. Not tomorrow, not next year, not at 90. Now, tonight, mid-breath, mid-word. When you hear this, something inside you trembles. Because deep down, you know it's true. Death is not a distant shadow. It is always here, sitting beside you. And the sooner you accept it, the sooner you will truly live. But here's the second blade of truth, just as crushing, just as undeniable. You waste your life. You waste it scrolling, worrying, comparing, waiting. You act as if time is infinite. You say to yourself, I'll start tomorrow. I'll live later. I'll focus on myself when it's easier, when I'm ready. But Seneca thundered back, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. This is the dagger of Stoicism. It pierces your illusions. It forces you to see that every wasted hour is not coming back. Every hesitation, every distraction, every excuse is theft. The thief is not the world. The thief is you. Now, what happens when you combine these truths? Death is certain. Time is wasted. It is like standing in a burning house while clutching treasures that are already turning to ash. It is like sleeping while your only inheritance drips through your fingers like sand. It is like being a prisoner who holds the key in his own hand, but never bothers to unlock the door. The Stoics scream across centuries, wake up! Wake up before the fire consumes you. Wake up before the sand runs out. Wake up before death takes the chance you never seize. But here's the paradox. This truth that crushes you is also the truth that can set you free. Because once you understand that nothing is permanent, you stop clinging. Once you realize you are wasting time, you stop wasting it. Once you see death as certain, you stop fearing it, and you start living. Imagine living with that clarity. Imagine walking into every room, into every conversation, into every day with the awareness. This could be my last. Would you waste time in gossip? Would you drown in envy? Would you delay your dreams another year? Number? You would burn with urgency. You would live with fire. You would focus on yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of reverence for life itself. Epictetus, chained and broken, said it plainly. How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? That question echoes through time like a war drum. How long? How long will you delay? How long will you keep handing your hours to people who do not care about your soul? How long will you keep drowning in noise while silence calls you home? You have waited long enough. The truth is here. It does not care if you are ready. It does not care if you are afraid. It does not care if you think you have time. Because time is not yours. It never was. It was only borrowed, and soon it will be collected. This is the climax of Stoicism. Not peace, not comfort, not blissful meditation, but a confrontation with the harshest reality of all. You will die. You are wasted life. And the only way to honor the gift you've been given is to stop. Stop wasting. Stop delaying. Stop sleeping. Focus on yourself now. Discipline your mind now. Live by virtue now, because tomorrow may never come. The storm has passed. The battlefield is silent. And here you stand, scarred but unbroken. The Stoics never promised you victory. They promised you clarity. Marcus whispered, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one, not tomorrow, not someday, now. So focus on yourself. Build discipline like stone walls. Sharpen wisdom like a blade. Live with honor like it's your last day, because it just might be. When you rise not just for yourself. Your strength becomes a light in the darkness. Your silence becomes a weapon in the noise. Your virtue becomes a rebellion against a world that worships distraction. Remember this, the world doesn't need more talkers. It needs more warriors of the mind. And every time you choose focus over chaos, you become that warrior. Now comes the question, the one only you can answer. Will you go back to sleep, or will you rise? The easy road is there. Scroll, drift, waste. But the hard road, the Stoic road, is narrow. It is discipline. It is solitude. It is fire. It is where you forge yourself into iron. Choose, because not choosing is already a choice. If these words pierced you, it is not me you heard. It was Marcus. It was Seneca. It was Epictetus. It was the voice of destiny that has always been calling you. Listen, not just today, but tomorrow. Not just in strength, but in weakness. Not just in victory, but in heartbreak. Because the Stoic voice will never leave you unless you choose to abandon it. And so we end where we began, with truth. You are dying every second. The question is not whether you will fall. The question is whether you will rise before the end. Carry this forward. Live it. Share it. Not for me, not for this channel, but because the world is starving for warriors and you have the chance to become one. The rest is silence. The rest is yours.